The Chicago Bulls may have missed out on any trades at the deadline, but the buyout market is very alive and ready for them to pounce on any talent that is available within it. We're going to break down those players that are linked to the Bulls in this episode of Bulls Digest. I'm your host, Joey Mercer, and before we get into it there today, I just want to say that about 80% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel, so make sure if you aren't already subscribed to go down below, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and every single time we upload, you will be notified so you can stay up to date with your Chicago Bulls and our takes on them. So without further ado, let's get in the topic at hand because it's going to be a bit of a longer one today, and it is buyout market targets breakdown. So we're going to be discussing everything that you need to know about the players that are linked to the Bulls. And one of the first ones we're not going to get too deep into because we just recently discussed them a few days ago. If you'd like to check out that video with a Bojan Bogdanovic trade, where the player being is Joe Harris. The Pistons recently bought him out, which was a little bit of a shocker, but not too crazy because he hasn't been having that good of a year. But when we look into it, we can see that he is 5th in NBA history in career three-point percentage and is probably just having an off year in a system that doesn't work out well for him when he needs to be on a team that is probably more in a contending position than a team like the Detroit Pistons, almost just trying to, cash a paycheck. He is 32 years old, so still have some room left in the tank there for years eligible for him to be a solid player as he is just a knockdown shooter, and is 6'6" at shooting guard SF, so can play either position there, and that was per KCJ, so KC Johnson Hoops, and that's where that tweet came from and the article originally. We look into the other players that are involved that just were updated earlier today. We can see that it is Evan Fournier, Danilo Gallinari, Marcus Morris Sr., Thad Young, Seth Curry, and Danielle House. So yeah, the Bulls had interest in signing Lowry as well, but before he signed to the Sixers, of course, and that was tweeted out by Woj, and we can see that this potential buyout candidate list was from KC Johnson as well. We're going to get right into those players and break down who I think has the best value for the team and who I think the Bulls should pounce on right away. We could see Evan Fournier. We're not going to be looking at the Crafted NBA breakdown for his event statistics because he's only played 3 games so far this season. We can see that he's 31 years old, so not as old as some people picture him to be, and it was only a few years ago that he was putting up over 15 a game. We can also see that he was drafted, of course, in 2012, so he's been in this league for a while out of France, and he is a 6'6" shooting guard small forward. And then when we look at his stats, when we go into them, you can see overall in his career, he was drafted to the Nuggets, of course. Orlando is where he really peaked, almost won Most Improved Player there in 2016. Well, he was 13th, didn't almost win it, but he was in the running for sure. And it was just 2 seasons ago that he was putting up 14 a game, with the New York Knicks, shooting 42 from the field, but 39 from 3 on essentially 8 attempts a game, 71 from the line on very limited attempts. And that's still a solid season out of a shooting guard. Now, last season he didn't play hardly at all, and then this season he is playing atrocious in only 3 games, however. In those 13 minutes per game, that's why I can't get those advanced stats because it's such a limited amount of time. He's shooting 20% from the field, 13 from 3, 100 from the line on very, very few attempts, and putting up 4 points a game and nothing else to really mention. Besides those 1.3 steals, which is actually a career high, and he's doing it in 13 minutes a game, oddly enough, but still, once again, very small sample size. It almost seems as if he's done with his NBA career, but maybe a new start on the Chicago Bulls could do that for him after he gets bought out by the Pistons probably once again. I don't think they're going to keep him, but they have bought out about 4, maybe 5 players as of late. Most of the players we're mentioning have been bought out by the Pistons. They're just throwing around money there, buying out players, getting no services out of them, which is a little strange, but if the Bulls can pounce on something like that, then why not? A new look for Fournier at 31 years old could be solid. Maybe he can turn into a knockdown shooter once again. When we look into the next part of this, we can see Danilo Gallinari. He's 6'10". I mean, great size there. 7'1" wingspan. He is 35 years old. So if we were to pick him up, it would be more for a veteran presence. He plays PF. He used to play SF. I really would want him to stick at PF nowadays. You can see there with the bullseye, he's one of the best shooters in the league. And the 2 arrows going into each other looks almost like a shuffle. That just means his portability is very high. He can fit pretty well anywhere in the league, and he's out of Italy. When we look at the breakdown of his advanced metrics, we can see true shooting is about league average, maybe a little bit above. His shot quality is one of the best in the league at the 86th percentile. He gets to the line a lot, which is really odd for a player of his archetype. At the 91st percentile, he takes a good, healthy amount of threes. Can't really grab offensive rebounds, but when he tries to create, which he does have a solid amount, it's a little tiny bit above league average. He doesn't turn the ball over, which is great to see. He has some good ball security there. His portability is one of the best in the league at the 89th percentile, and passing's around league average for his position. Overall, his offensive plus-minus at the 62nd percentile at 35 years old on the Wizards at last. That's very good out of Danilo Gallinari. When we look at his defense, he's never been known for it. He doesn't foul too often, but he does like to get to the rim and try to make an attempt to block them. He's just very, very bad at it, but at least he's making an attempt, so sometimes you just aren't very good at defense, but the effort level is there, and that's what you're seeing out of Gallinari at that aspect. We look, he's not causing many defensive turnovers or deflections, nothing I'm too worried about at the power forward position, and he does grab a decent amount of rebounds on the defensive end at the 76th percentile. A very solid player even though he is 35 years old, and could be a great mentor and just fill up a roster spot if we're making a playoff push this season, and that's a guy that I definitely would try to go out and get. Gallinari still has something left in the tank. You just worry about his injuries more than anything. Next thing that we see here, obviously, is how he's playing so far this season, not just the advanced metrics. And we can see he's putting up 7 a game, and he's shooting 45% from the field, about 36 from 3. And we can also see shooting 85% from the line there. Now, I want to point out and mention that these are about his averages over his career. Everything's about the same because his career average is essentially double what he's playing minutes per game this season. And that's exactly what you're getting out of Gallinari. The only thing that's down is a little bit on the three-point percentage, but that could definitely pick up in a new situation. So Gallinari still playing at a very high level, and that's great to see out of him. Next player we're looking at is Marcus Morris Sr., who has really struggled to get any playing time while he was in Philadelphia after that trade for James Harden, of course, when he was with the Clippers originally. And we could see right here now it lists that he's on the San Antonio Spurs. I don't believe that he is going to stay on that team. I believe that he will be bought out. He said, of course, that he is ready to help a team win. So I think the buyout actually happened recently, just as I'm recording this video. And, yeah, power forward position, that's where you like him to see. He used to play SF a little bit. His shooting is still very good. A bit underrated of a shooter, actually, from three-point range. He is an absolutely horrid defender. That's why the colander or sieve is there. And he is at the replacement level so far this season. At 34 years old, I still think he can make an impact on a team. I just really do believe it was the wrong situations. And on the Bulls, I do believe that he could put in some solid minutes for us. We can see here he does have the potential still to be a solid player. The true shooting's around league average. Shot quality's up to the 81st percentile. He's shooting a lot of shots off the catch so far this season, so you're not going to see that free throw rate very high. His three-point attempted rate is still pretty healthy and solid, and offensive rebounding's about league average. When he tries to create, which isn't so often, it's below league average, but he's not turned the ball over, which is good to see. Very portable because of his shooting ability, and his passing is not so great, but once again, he's that guy at the last swing to shoot the shot, and his overall offensive plus-minus is bad this season at the 32nd percentile. But it shows promise there that he can still pick those things up once again. 34 years old, still probably has a couple of years left in the tank. When we look at the defense, he's in the 10th percentile overall on defense, one of the worst defensive players in the league, but his versatility's high. Can fit in a team defense for sure. Is a solid defensive rebounder for sure. I mean, great, just as good, if not, you know, that 1% better than Gallinari. I'd say they're about the same. Rim frequency solid, but he's one of the worst rim defenders in the entire NBA. But when we look at his block percentage, it is very solid, oddly enough. He just doesn't cause any turnovers on defense. Overall, the rim defense, once again, is really bad. And deflections are also pretty poor. And he fouls too much. And that's honestly the biggest knock that's been on Marcus Morris always. Is he is a little bit hot-headed and can foul too much for sure. But if he's able to keep those things in hand, maybe an enforcer is needed on a team like the Chicago Bulls. I think Marcus Morris can turn things around and be a very important player in the league once again. In a new system, I still give him time and give him the benefit of the doubt for sure. And I think he's the main guy the Bulls should go after, because I think Marcus Morris can make a big difference to a team with what he can bring just to the locker room. The next player that the stats that we look at Marcus Morris, which is why I think there's still potential for him to be solid. We can see on his career, he's playing 27 minutes a game, so he's actually down 9 minutes a game. His points are only 7, and on the average for the career, it's 12. And you can see there he's not passing the ball very often. 1.5 on the career, 0.7 the season. Not many minutes, not many passes. The rebounding's about the same. And we can also see the free throw percentage is up this season on 1 attempt less a game at 86%. He's shooting 40% from 3, which is good to mention there for sure. And still keeping up and around what he's shooting as career from the field at 44%, which isn't great, but he is shooting 44% from 3, or 40% from 3, sorry, and those are half of his attempts pretty well this season, just a bit below. So, yeah, Marcus Morris, I mean, still a very